Welcome back. Um, the next lecture of this week, again, the topic is communication. The one that we were doing, we have started from the last week. So a little earlier we discussed communication process, and we discussed each and every aspect of communication process. I hope you all have now a very clear idea of what the communication process is and how is it carried out, and what exactly are the things that can that are helpful, and some that can be that can create some problem in the process of communication. And along with that, we discussed the parts of the communication process. Then we discussed how the communication process overall work, and then the next thing that we are now going to another thing that we discussed is noise. What things that actually create a little disturbance in the process of communication. Now, the topic is under discussion right now is the tips for improving the communication process. The whole process of communication, it goes on. It is carried out by each and every member of every organization. There may be very rare people in an organization who don't communicate, who don't have to say anything, or who don't get any message from anyone. Even a person working as a laborer in an organization, at least if he doesn't have to say anything, he gets messages and different orders and different things, different work layouts from their seniors and from their department heads. So actually, communication process is something that is going on all the time. So something that is actually carried out in every organization, and it's carried out all the time, every time. Whenever you have to say something, the communication process starts. So that means this is something very important, and obviously, so the important things always are done in can be done in many ways. Means they are to be done actually. They can be done in a good way, they can be done in a little better way, or sometimes they are done in a bad way. So what are things, what can be the tips, what can be the ways to improve the communication process? So today, in this lecture, we are going to discuss what are the tips to improve the communication process. Here are some tips to consider to improve your communication skills and the communication process overall. The first tip that is very important is simplify your message. What do we mean by simplify? Obviously, if you have to say something, there are 100 ways of saying something. But is it important to complicate your words? Is it important to use those words? Although you have to sometimes use technical words, but use those technical language with those people who can understand those technical language. If they are unable to decode what you're saying, that means you are actually using the wrong terminology, and you are using the wrong words. You have selected actually the wrong words for winding or for screwing. If these are the words, these are the technical words, and you're saying these all directions, you're giving those directions to those people who are actually concerned with all these processes, they will understand, they will get what you're saying. But for example, if that terminology is not known to them, that means you are using tough words for them. So a tip, the first tip is to simplify your message. In order to ensure your message is properly understood, you should keep your language simple and to the point. Whatever you want to say, don't exaggerate it. Don't explain it in a way that it gets lengthy. So why not to be to the point? Why not to use a simple language, a language that is interpretable by the people you are actually giving a message? So the first step is to simplify your message. Number two is you must know your audience. Um, it's also important to consider the audience that will receive your message, as well as their needs and interests. If someone is not interested in whatever you're saying, that means you have to change your strategy, because you want to give that message to those people, to that person. But if you think that person would not be interested in knowing what you're saying, that means you can you can twist your message a little, but you must know who you are talking to. Because if you don't know what you are, who you are talking to, again, maybe you will select some difficult words. Maybe you select some the style of message would be maybe wrong. For example, if people are like that, you think that they understand the written message more better, so why not to communicate with them in some written form? For example, there are some workforce, for example, they are not much literate. Why are you sending them messages through notices or through emails? Because this is the best way to communicate. So if you know your audience well, this is the best way that you can communicate your message the most effective. So that is important, that you must you must keep your message a simple one and convey it to your audience. As a communicator, it's important to actively listen to what those around you are saying. This will ensure that you are sending the right message. Now, for example, this is very important. When you say, you must listen as well. You remember that we discussed this as well earlier in the last week's lesson as well. That lesson was again of communication, and we discussed this, that active listening is very important when we are communicating, because unless you know what other person is saying, what other person is communicate with them the right way. So uh, actually, to send a right message to the people, this is very important that initially you listen to them properly. So ask question. It's also important to ask good questions to keep the communication flowing. Make sure your questions are insightful and engaging. What is insightful means, whatever matter is going on, is your question just a statement that you're passing, or is this a question that you are actually want to get an insight of something, means you want to get in-depth knowledge of that matter, or you want others to get an in-depth matter of that topic, of the topic of discussion. So this is very important, that you must, for sending a good message to the person or receiving a message effectively, this is very important that when a communication is going on in between two people or two groups, this is very important that in between you must ask questions. Questions always clarifies things, because something that is communicated to you but you kept it to yourself and you didn't discuss it further, that can create confusion. So a question helps to sort out things. A question gives us an insight into the matter, maybe to which we are just having a surface view. And also, the questions make the situation engaging. Means, um, for example, a communication process is going on, and suddenly, after an email, it stops. What happens? This is actually where we can say confusion start. And another very important thing is, there is a creation. What is important? Ask questions. When you ask question, when the other person answers, you ask something again, the other person answers. What happens? Maybe this time this person will ask a question from you and you will answer it. In this way, attending queries actually gives us a margin to understand the matter very, very deeply, and we get insights of the matter. So this is very important that you ask question in during the communication process. Take the time to respond as well. When communicating, it's important to consider how you might reply to a person to ensure you know what you want to say. Sometimes in your busy schedule, gives you a response. What happens is, you don't get time, you don't send an email as an answer, because if someone asks you a question, you didn't get time to respond. And as I said, there will be a gap in the communication, and that gap can create some confusions. Again, if something is told to you, if a message is sent to you, if an email is sent to you, you didn't get time to respond to that, what happens? Again, this is a lack of communication, and there becomes a gap in the communication, which can create problems in future. So whenever you get a message, time to get some time to give some response as well. Consider your body language. If you are communicating through a different medium, it's important to be mindful of your body language. In addition, be aware of the body language of the person you are communicating with as well. Sometimes we say that I was not in a good mood. I don't know why that person wasn't getting it. Sometimes we get it and sometimes we ignore it. uh, Actually, the thing is that when you are communicating with another person, this is very important that you try to understand the body language as well. For example, if someone is not comfortable in whatever you are saying, you can change your words. You can slightly mold your words. You can make your statement a little milder. You can make your statement a little softer. You can change your tone to a little softer. Maybe. Why? Because you don't want to create a tough and tense situation, because you want that communication process to go on. You don't want to stuck the things over there, because with a tense situation, the things get stuck. So an important and a very good key to communicate for the communication process to go on is that things must not get stuck. And a key for that is to understand others' body language. And whatever you're saying through your body language, whatever the other person is saying through you, through their body language, you both, the listener and the sender, they both must understand each other's body language. Maintain eye contact. It's also important to make contact with the person or group you're communicating with. This will show that you are actually actively listening to who you are communicating with. Sometimes when we are this happens that someone is talking to you and you're writing something. Someone is talking to you and you are looking at the table, you're playing with your pen. What does this show? This shows that you are actually not actively listening to what that person is saying. If you are looking into that person's eye, that means you are listening to him or her 100%. That is the only and a very good way to tell the other person that yes, you are I am actually listening to you. I'm listening each and every word of you. Whatever you're saying, I'm getting it. So again, this is a tip that you must understand what is the other person saying. So the next is clarify your message if needed. If the recipient of your message is unclear about what you're trying to say, it's important to clarify your message. This will help them to better understand you. Sometimes this happens that you see, we are giving a presentation and at the end we give a chance to the audience. If anyone has any question, you can ask. What happens? Yes, sometimes recipients ask very constructive questions. They have a question that actually shows that they have a right query. Sometimes people ask questions just for the sake of asking question, but sometimes people want to know further about something, and maybe you were not able to clarify something in your presentation, in your message, in your meeting, in your whatever. So that means if someone asks something, sometimes people get a little harsh. I explained it earlier. I told it before. You might were not listening. There's no need to say all this, because if you were saying something to the people, yes, they were not able to get something out of it. If they were not, you can definitely explain things to them, and you can definitely clarify the message to them. This is a very good and necessary thing to do. Why? Because sometimes things get more easy and comfortable when we clarify them. So I'm sorry. So, ending with this topic, we are going to again have a look at the communication process. You may have noticed that this topic, communication process, typically communication process, we give much time to this topic because this is a very important topic. And since communication is something that is actually happening in the organizations all the time, and we must know what things can be tried to improve our communication and what things must be avoided to create some problem in the communication process. So to have a look again at the communication process, the sender who sends the message, he selects the best way to encode his or her message. Then the message itself, when it passes through a channel, it is received by the receiver, and then the receiver decodes the message. During this process, when the message is sent to the receiver and the channel that is selected, there is noise in between, and there can be some sort of noise that can sometimes distort the message to some extent and sometimes to a major extent. So the sender as well as receiver must be very conscious of the noise that can be created in the surroundings, in whatever in and the types of noise we discussed, they can be physiological, psychological, physical. So these all are the different types of noise, as well as when the receiver gives the feedback back to the sender that confirms the message and that shows that the message is being received and it's communicated in the way it is communicated. And if the sender thinks through the feedback, the sender can get a very good idea if my message has been delivered properly and in a proper way and the message is delivered rightfully. So these are the tips that, and this is the process overall of the communication, and these are the steps that are followed in the communication process. So, ending with the communication process, we are moving to the next of our lecture, that is direction of communication flow in an organization. So, when we talk about the direction of communication, as we say that communication process goes on in any organization and in almost every organization. But when that communication is going on, I'm so sorry. When that communication is going on, we must have an idea in what direction it may flow. Um, Sometimes a boss is giving some orders or the way of doing things, a code of conduct for any particular project to the employees. Maybe an employee has something to get get itself explained with the boss. Maybe there is any problem in the organization that has to be discussed, and for that purpose a meeting is being called. Maybe a project is to be represented in front of people that are coming for a new project, for a new business deal to the organization, so the communication is done. So sometimes communication is from the people in the organization who are in the hierarchy. They are down, means they are at a low level, and they communicate upward. Sometimes the people at the top, means the top management, communicate downward, and that is the downward communication. Sometimes departments together to have a meeting, that is the lateral communication, means that communication is moving horizontally. And sometimes one department to the other, and sometimes um, some person from the lower department, means some person from the down, eh, he is in the hierarchy, he's at the down position, means maybe he's not, he's the second manager or is the assistant manager, and he has to talk to another department, the head of another department. He may talk directly. That is diagonal communication. So looking at this diagram, If you can see there is an arrow going upward, means this is the upward communication. Then there is an arrow going downward. That is, if the message is delivered from downward to upward, that means that is the upward communication. If a message is going from upward to the downward, that means the communication is downward. If the communication is between different departments, that means, and at the same level, managers are talking to managers, top management is talking to the top management, labor is talking to the labor of one department to the department A and department B. For example, you consider green as department A and the orange as department B. If the people at one level talk to each other, that is the lateral communication. And one people from one department may want to talk to the management of another department, then that is the diagonal communication. And maybe the top management of one department may want to talk to the, for example, managers to of another department, that is the diagonal communication. So going through them one by one, within organizations, there are three directions in which communications flow: downward, upward, and laterally, means horizontal. And the one that is diagonal is very rarely done, but still it is done. Downward communication. Downward communication involves a message traveling to one or more receivers at the lower level in the hierarchy. The message frequently involves directions or performance feedback. When we say downward communication, it's usually from the bosses to their coordinates, to their subordinates, to their employees. So basically, when we say downward communication, it is so that a message or an email or a notification is sent to the people at the lower level in the hierarchy. What is hierarchy, by the way? I guess we discussed this word in the class as well when we're having live classes in the university. We discussed this word hierarchy. Hierarchy means a step-by-step position of people in an organization. What status are they having and enjoying in the organization? For example, a person, maybe he's an attendant. Then there is a person who is controlling the management of all the departments. Then there is a person who is actually an assistant to the manager. Then there is the manager. Then is the general manager. So this is the hierarchy, step by step by step by step, how people are organized in an organization. So obviously, in the same way, communication flows in an organization. It hardly and rarely happens that a CEO of the company directly sends a message to an assistant manager. It rarely happens because he or she will send the message through following a proper channel, through a proper channel, and that message would be traveled through that channel, means to the immediate boss of that person, and then that message would be conveyed to that person through his or her boss. So basically, whenever the downward communication goes, how it goes, it is a message from the top management or from the managers to the employees and to the team of that manager. And usually, what is that message? What The most important message that is usually given to the team or to the employees at the lower level are the directions: how to do, when to do, what to do. These are the questions probably, and most importantly, that are dealt in this situation when the downward communication is done. And also the performance feedback. You are required to submit a report on the project that you were handling in the past for the past 2 weeks. You are required to submit the report of that project in till tomorrow, or till December what. So this is a performance feedback. You want a feedback from your employees, so, or you give them the feedback of their performance. So basically, this is the downward communication when bosses gives a message to their employees. The downward flow of communication generally corresponds to the formal organizational communication system, which is usually synonymous with the chain of command or line of authority. Exactly, when we say the message is passing through a proper channel, which means the chain of command is being followed. What is the chain of command? From the boss to the next step, to the next step, to the next step. It's never that a message from 4 is directly given to 1. No, it's not so. Message would be flowed from 4 to 3, then to 2, then to 1. So this is the chain of command or line of authority. This system has received a great deal of attention from both managers and behavioral scientists, since it is crucial to organizational functioning. Definitely, because obviously we all know that whatever directions that are given by the managers, they actually play a vital role in the organizational functioning and the overall behavior of that organization. So this type of communication is crucial for the proper running of that organization. And obviously the downward communication always and most of the time follow the chain of command or line of authority. So the next is upward communication. In upward communication, the message is directed towards a higher level in the hierarchy. It often takes the form of progress reports or information about successes and failures of the individuals or work groups reporting to the receiver of the message. Sometimes employees also send suggestions or complaints upward through the organization's hierarchy. Again, hierarchy is very important. If you want to send a message to for example, the GM of the organization, you may not send the message directly to the GM, because if you do so, that message would return to your line manager, and that would be asked to you that your message must be sent with the signatures of your line manager. So this is very important, that when upward communication is done, the message is actually directed towards the higher authority. Means you want to tell the progress of some work, of any project that is being held, any information that you want to convey to your bosses, and all about the successes and failures of different projects that are being held in that organization. Or for example, you are a part of it and your performance is being asked by your managers. You, when respond to them, is actually that you are doing the upward communication. So sometimes employees also send suggestions or complaints as well. Yes, in many organizations, not most of, I must say not all of them, but most of them actually gives employees this opportunity that they, whenever they want, they can send a feedback, they can send complaints, and they can give suggestions as well regarding any issue, any situation, any activity that is going on in any organization. For example, if I give you an example, sometimes if people working with the organization, maybe they are in the sales team. Now sales team is not a part of the higher authorities of the organizations, and sometimes higher authorities, when take decision about, for example, if they want to say start a sale at their any of their branch, they may ask the head of the sales section, or the person standing on the sales floor. They may ask what product is selling the best, because only that person can give you the right word of the customer, because they are dealing with the customer the whole day. Obviously you're selling, and your vouchers tell you a lot about what is selling the best, but again, a response from the people who are actually attending the customers face to face, they can give you a very good feedback. So this is a very good tip, that you always welcome the suggestions and as well as complaints from the people who are working in your organization as employees, and their suggestions and their complaints sometimes may bring a good change in the organization. The upward flow of communication involves two distinct manager subordinate activities in addition to feedback. And what are they? The participation of by employees in formal organizational decisions. Employee appeal is a result against formal organization decisions. Um, the employee appeal is a result of the industrial democracy concept that provides for two-way communication in areas of disagreement. A very, very important thing. When we say upward communication, usually organizations sometimes just believe in downward communication. Whatever message they want to send to their employees, they do it. But when it's the time that they must get some suggestions or complaints or whatever, they are a little reluctant, because obviously if it's difficult to, because bosses are few, employees are many. When you start getting feedback from all, this sometimes gets a little tougher and difficult for the organization heads to control and hold all of that. But what is good is not to discourage your employees from giving feedback. Why? Because they have a right to speak. They're a part of your organization. They actually are strengthening your organization. And some people may be creating some problem, but at the same time, everyone is not a problem creator. Most of the people in the organization are actually helping your organization to boost in the market. So what is good is to get suggestions and to believe in what they are saying in the form of complaints or suggestions. So, the participation by employees in formal organizational decisions. This is very important, that not only the feedback that you need from them, another important thing, that when formal and essential important organizational decisions are being taken, this is good to talk to your employees, have their response, uh, send them some kind of maybe a questionnaire, some kind of review sheet, and ask their opinion. For example, you're going to launch something new in the market. Why not to ask, maybe a designer at a very junior level may give you a very good suggestion. So why not to have it? Why not to use their brains as well? Because yes, they are junior right now, maybe they are less inexperienced right now, but sometimes people may have very, very strong creativity, very strong imagination, very strong decisional entrepreneur skills. Why not to use them? Why not to give them chance? And secondly, employee appeal is a result against formal organizational decisions. For example, your organization has taken a decision, you don't agree to them. There must be a margin, there must be, as they say, industrial democracy concept. The industrial democracy concept actually allows the employees to get a right, that they have a right to appeal against the formal organizational decisions. This actually facilitates the two-way of communication. It's not just that the downward communication is done, that it's just that the orders being passed to the employees. Employees also must have a margin, must have a word to communicate to their bosses. So this is a very, very important aspect of upward communication, that using the industrial democracy concept, employees should have a right to appeal against any decision, any formal decision that has been taken by the organization at the higher level. So, stimulating upward communication. Although most managers agree on the need for upward communication, it is often not clear what actions can be taken to stimulate it. Given this situation, it is important to develop ways to stimulate upward communication. If properly utilized, upward communication is potentially one of the most useful managerial practices. Upward communication keeps managers aware of how employees feel about their jobs, co-workers, and the organization in general. Managers also rely on upward communication for ideas on how things can be improved. That is exactly what I was discussing a little while ago. That actually, this two-way communication is not just important and useful for the employees. It is very, very good for the managers as well, because in this way they can improve the things. In this way they can be aware. if the employees are satisfied with their jobs, if they are satisfied with their co-workers, if there is any tension going on in any department, if you have relaxed the your employees, and they have an open choice, an open margin of communicating with you as a boss, that means you actually have facilitated your employees for coming to you whenever they have a problem, and whenever some situation arises in any department, before that situation becomes a tense one, before that situation becomes a complicated one, it is communicated to you. And how it was communicated to you? Through the employees, because you have actually given them a margin, you have actually given them that relaxation that they can come to you and they can discuss things with you. In this way, they actually have gotten ease in their behavior and in their conduct. So, lateral communication, coming to the lateral communication, when takes place among members of the same work group, among members of work groups at the same level, among managers at the same level, or among any horizontally equivalent personnel, we describe it as lateral communication. So, the work group at the same level, the managers at the same level, any person who is working at the same level of the same, they are in the hierarchy, they're in the same position. That means when they communicate with each other, actually that communication is called lateral communication. In lateral communication, the sender and receiver are at the same level in the hierarchy. Formal communications that travel laterally involve employees engaged in carrying out the same or related tasks. Yes, because if people of one department discusses matters of the same department in another, means you can say people of one office discuss things with another office, and the departments are different, but they're at the same level. That means they are having actually lateral communication, and they are at the same level, and their tasks would be related. More or less, their tasks would be related. The messages might concern advice, problem solving, or coordination of activities. Yes, if there is a project going to start, and there is a department that is handling the management task, another department that is handling the traveling task, another department that is handling maybe the finances. They all are, maybe the offices that are dealing with each other, they are at the same level. They just have to communicate with each other to make things easier. They want to coordinate to solve the problems, to have an advice of each other, and to solve and make the things easier in a way that the ongoing project that is to be started in a while will be smoothly handled out. The direction of communication in organizations is explained above, is summarized in this diagram. If you look at this diagram, um, interpretation is in upward communication, means when you interpret things, and you travel towards the communication travel towards upward, that is problems and exception, suggestions for improvement, performance reports, grievances and disputes, financial and accounting information. This all is done by the upward communication, because these all are the things that are the issues and concerns of the employees. When we talk about the downward communication, because that is something that is told by the bosses to the employees, it involves implementation of goals, strategies, objectives, job instructions and rationale, procedures and practices, performance feedback, and indoctrination. So basically, these are all the things that are basically, this is the influence. Basically, when the downward communication is done, it is the influence, because as a boss, you influence your employees through all these decisions, through all these commands that are being passed. Lateral communication majorly involves the intra-departmental problem solving, interdepartmental coordination, staff advise to line departments and coordinate. Intra-department, what is the difference between intra-department and inter-department? When in one office, the people sitting in one office, they talk to each other, they communicate with each other. For example, when the papers are near, the exam office is the most active department at that moment, and people coordinate with each other that yes, you will handle these four departments, I will handle these four departments, you will handle, the third person will handle the next four departments, and we are going to update the question papers, we are going to update when these papers are going to be held. So this all is what, this is actually the activity that is going on inside the department. For example, the same activity, when this has to be the whatever is activity that is going on in the exam department, this has to be coordinated with the people who are going to conduct the paper in the halls. And for example, as a first step, the people who are going to make the paper, for example, the teachers. Now, teachers are another department. Exam office is another department. The people who are going to conduct the paper in the halls is still another department. So when these three departments communicate with each other to smooth out the things and take the things in a proper and smooth way. Now, what is this? This is the intra-department problem solving and intra-department coordination. So all this is a part of the communication. So majorly upward communication, lateral communication, and downward communication. So, guys, this is all about today's lecture about on the communication. We discussed a lot of topics on communication. I know this is a topic that we it's not actually difficult, because this is something that we are actually doing all the time. Right now I'm speaking to you, when you guys will be speaking to me in the interactive classes. This all is communication. You want to tell me your problems, I'm going to solve sometimes your problems, and sometimes to tell you that you have to face these things overall. And uh, right now I'm telling you about what is the communication, how it is carried out, what is this, what is that. This all is actually what this is communication. I'm trying to tell you about a topic, and you are getting that. I'm the sender right now, you guys are the receiver. And maybe if this recording is not a very good one, this is the noise that may be in between. And when I would be giving you a quiz and or an assignment, and when you will be getting good marks, this is the feedback that I will be getting, that yes, my communication was good and effective. So I hope you all understand what has been told to you, and what is being discussed in today's class. Inshallah, in the next class, I guess we are left with one or two topics related and regarding communication. Inshallah, in the next week, probably we'll be finishing the topic of communication. So in the interactive class that we are going to have on Wednesday, we are going to have a quiz, as well as we'll be discussing an assignment. Probably I'll be posting an assignment in tomorrow in your classroom. And please kindly submit your assignment. Please, you all try to submit your assignment on the given time, because when the late submission is there, I'm sorry, I'll be deducting marks, because the people who are submitting the assignment on the right time, they have a right to get the full mark, the good marks what they deserve. But people who will not be submitting their assignments in the right time, they must suffer. So please try to be in time with your assignments, and try to, and last time the quiz was okay. You guys are going to have the first quiz, right? Inshallah, you will be having a quiz in this class, and the assignment as well. So right now, this is all from my side. Okay, Allah Hafiz.